And welcome to One Card, One Cub, and One Beer. JJ, we are 8 days away from the first day of Major League Baseball, but so much has happened this week. So much has
Yes,
happened.
sir.
I can't wait to get into it. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, contact us through One Card, One Cup, One Beer at gmail.com. Subscribe to our page by clicking on the icon at the bottom right. You can support us through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com, search One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer. And there you can support our efforts. And I also do want to remind you, we have an entry for March. We have an entry for April. So if you would like to join JJ and I in a trivia match that is going to win you maybe a prize worth $1 million, probably not, but hey, I guess it's possible. Let us know somehow. Get a hold of me. Get a hold of JJ. I know there's a few people who are a little hesitant because they want to watch and see how other people do against us. And like I say, we are very beatable. We are like that mule from 1830 that is pulling the boats along the Erie Canal. We are very beatable. I'm sorry, PETA people. That was a terrible joke. JJ, how are you doing?
It's springtime, Vince. Like you said, 8 days away. I'm doing great. I tell you what, I won't get into the games so much, but just what the World Baseball Classic was. I really enjoyed it. I tipped my cap to Lars Newbar and the Japanese team. I'm telling you what, that game against Mexico was fantastic. The 3-2 game we tape on Wednesday, so the game last night against the USA, I enjoyed that so much, and you couldn't even write a better script with it ending with Trout and Ohtani one-on-one with a 3-2 count. That's pretty exciting. Wasn't that, Vince? That was great.
I saw someone post in one of my baseball groups. I guess this shows Trout who the real GOAT is. You cannot base on one at bat, okay? It's competition. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. I'm not saying, okay, well, that means that Ohtani is more of a Hall of Famer than Trout's ever going to be. I don't play that game. But I do want to tell you this. I don't know who the pinch runner was, but in that game, Mexico against Japan, the pinch runner they brought in, he flew. I've never seen anyone, and they didn't show it. I just know they're just pinch running, and there's the hit, and suddenly there's the Japanese team storming the field. I'm thinking there's going to be a play at the plate. No, there wasn't a play at the plate. The guy was already back in the crowd of players. It was just blew me away how nobody brought up how fast that guy is. But anyway,
I tell you what, I think a lot of Japanese
got little
players,
things like that. So
they've got down to first so quickly. They're in the eighth inning. There was a hit right to Arenado, and he would have thrown somebody out by 3 steps, and it was bang bang at first place. You know, and Arenado's perhaps, I think, the best fielding third baseman in the game today, and he barely got the guy. They got down to first really quickly, and their pitching staff. We knew they had the best pitching staff going into this. I thought it was going to be Dominican Republic versus Japan. That shows you what I know. But they all seem to have a hitch that kind of throws your timing off a little, and they all mastered that split-fingered fastball or changeup, one of the two. That ball just dropped off the table. Outstanding. So I tipped my cap to him, and I tell you what I liked about it, there was a lot of good sportsmanship. If a foul ball went off a catcher, teams checked on the catcher. Or if there was a close play at second, hey, are you okay? Ohtani at the end, he bowed to the Americans and tipped his cap, and with his new best friend Lars Newbar. Speaking of Lars, he's getting a candy bar, and he wants a chocolate like dessert candy bar, like a Milky Way or something. But I think they're going to make it like a protein bar, something healthy. Nowadays, you have to make everything healthy. But he'll be one of the few players that's had a candy bar. I looked this up a while ago. Some of the players that's had candy bars, Reggie Jackson had a candy bar in the 70s, right after he hit those 3 home runs in the World Series.
Yeah.
King Griffey Jr. had a candy bar. Here's a couple you may not know. Albert Bell had Candy bar. I'm looking at your face when I say that. Albert Bell had one, and Wade Boggs had the 352. The 352. And some say the baby Ruth was named after Babe Ruth. I've heard different stories about that. Perhaps Babe Ruth, perhaps a niece or something like that, a baby Ruth. I don't know that for a fact.
I
But
remember in the 70s when Henry Aaron broke the record, um, there was a candy bar. It was an old candy bar called O. Henry, named after the writer O. Henry. And
yes,
they made commercials of Henry Aaron hitting the home run. Oh, Henry, get an O. Henry bar. And I'm thinking, at the time, I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. They named the candy bar after him. Then I found out, no, that's an older candy bar named after the writer O. Henry. Anyway,
well, there was a close call. The game before the finals, Arenado got hit on the wrist. And I was like, oh no, because we've had a few injuries in this World Baseball Classic. And that's been a point of argument with fans. Is it worth these players going over there and possibly getting hurt? Edwin Diaz got hurt in a celebration and
yeah.
will be out for the year. Also, Altuve got hit on the hand, and he's going to be out for a couple of months, but he will be back. But in spring training, we had Justin Turner get hit in the face. We've
Yeah.
had Gavin Lux. I think it was on a slide, perhaps, and he got hurt. So you just never know. How do you feel about that, Vince? Because I think I love the World Baseball Classic. They said the last night's game was one of the most viewed baseball games ever. I just think it's great for the game and baseball in general. How you feel about that?
I you can get hit, you can get hurt in a spring training game. You can
Yes,
get
sir.
hurt lifting weights. You can get hurt walking down the stairs. Roger Metzger cut his tips of his fingers off using hedge clippers. Things happen. The only injury that would not have happened in a spring training game is a celebration because nobody cares in spring training. Okay, Edwin Diaz. Okay, I give you that. But no, you can't say, okay, well, this is why we shouldn't have it because there can be injuries. Yeah, but there can be injuries driving home from spring training and getting in an accident. It's just part of life. And for what the momentum baseball has right now, uh, has baseball ever been this red hot in March? I don't think so, not in my lifetime.
Me
The
neither.
first few World Baseball Classics were not a big deal in the United States. They were kind of a novelty. Oh, they're doing that thing there. The stakes got higher. Was it 17 the last time we had it when the United
Yes.
States won? And it with COVID not having it again, the stakes have gotten higher, not just abroad, but in the United States. Okay, we want to go defend this. We want to prove we're the best players. And the only thing I wish is I want Garrett Cole there. I want Verlander there. I want the best like we should have. And I don't want people to think I'm criticizing Wainwright or
I understand.
Michaelis or
Thanks, Lynn.
Merrill Kelly, anybody. But that was just those were 2s, 3s, and 4s
Yeah.
starters. We did not send our best. We sent our great offense, but we did not send our best arms. And I would like to see us send our best arms. I can guarantee you, Japan sent the best of everything they had, along with every other country. So I wish we would have sent the best. But I love the whole thing, and usually March by this time, we're kind of sick of spring training. We're ready for the season to start. And then you have opening day. And then you have those first few weeks where you have games where they're played in 42 degrees and stuff like that. And baseball really doesn't pick up really until school gets out. We've never had this kind of momentum in March. And I hope it continues. I hope this is a part of the revitalization of baseball with Judge, with Otani, with marketable stars that we have right now. I hope we jump on this, and I hope we do a good job reinvigorating the interest in baseball amongst our population.
Well said. Well said. I think
Thank
the
you.
Philly fans came out ahead, meaning they're so excited because Trey Turner, their new acquisition, just looked incredible. Oh my gosh.
It wasn't just his home runs. He was hitting lasers. They were like, wow.
And he's a fantastic fielder. And you would see, well, and Kyle Schwarber, that 10, 11 pitch at bat against Darvish. And Darvish and Otani are the only two Japanese pitchers our guys have seen. This is the first time we've seen most of those guys. But that 11 pitch at bat with Darvish, and they battled and battled and battled. That was one for the ages. I just so enjoyed that. If he popped out, it still would have been a great at bat, but the home run was just icing on the cake. But you would see in the dugout, you would see Schwarber talking to Cedric Mullins, or Turner over there with Goldschmidt. And it was just fun to see that camaraderie. And I think as the tournament won, the Americans, you know, they just had, they kind of, there's a little more flow to their game. They got to, you know each other's game a little bit better because they were just kind of thrown together in a short period of time. I appreciate the Cardinals that went, Wainwright and Michaelis. Wainwright went 2-0. He had some shaky moments. Fielding, I've never seen Waino have so much difficulty fielding, but he used his defense, he battled, and for some reason, his curveball, you know it's coming. You know if he ain't got the slider, that curveball's coming. He throws it, and they still can't hit the thing, or they'll pop it up or something like that. Michaelis looked good. Goldie and Arenado, bless their hearts, looked fantastic. So that was all fun to see, and I so enjoyed it. It was a good time. Spring training's still going on, Vince, and I just want to say the Cardinals have 40. I know we have 43 players still in camp, and we have 33 major leaguers and 10 non-roster invitees still down there, and they're going to get down to 26. So there's a lot of, perhaps we don't know who quite's going to make the team, but I tell you what, Wynn and Jordan Walker are still down there. Still down there. It looks like Walker, and he's pretty much said, hey, I know what these guys they have on the team. I'm probably going to go back down and be down there for another year. But I think Jordan Walker is going to make this team. I'm very excited about that. It doesn't look like Hudson's going to make the team, and DeYoung is going to start the year out on the DL. We have a few young pitchers that have looked really good.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
I was surprised that Hudson still had options. It seems like he's been around for 10 years.
It sure does. I didn't think he did either. I tried to look that up, and I couldn't quite find everything, but it seems like he's been on the team for about 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Down and back. So honestly, I do not know. I didn't know he had any options either. The Cardinals are 14-6 this spring. And I know that doesn't mean anything, but it's good. They're, you know, we didn't have O'Neill and all the guys on the USA team and Lars and all these. And so that was pretty good. And we've looked at a lot of young players. Woodruff has looked really good. And I think he's going to take that long reliever spot and be a spot starter. He's looked very good. And Zach Thompson has developed a curveball, and I think he's going to make the team. Unless there's other guys who are out of options, he should make the team. And Donovan has picked up where he left off last year. Burleson has looked good. There's a kid we got at third base named Motter who's got 3 home runs at 319 and has 5 doubles. He might be a good trade piece, or he's going to be at Memphis, but it's been fun watching him. So anyway, that's kind of it right there. Also, since I seen you last, Vince, I watched a 30 for 30 about Steve Bartman. And
I've
a lot
seen
of
that.
things I saw, I heard you had said, and it was really about curses and momentum. They went back to Bill Buckner, and he was welcomed back after they won those 2 World Series. But, you know, that just aided him, that one play, and he was a great player. And Steve Bartman, looking back at it, there was 5 or 6 people reaching for that ball. You know, and Moises Alou might have not made that play. They went over it and over it and over it. And I feel so bad for Steve Bartman. And, you know, he had opportunities to make money and come to card shows and sign those pictures and make some sort of be at places and get paid for it, and he refused any of that. He just wants to be left alone. Lifetime Cub
He has
fan,
handled that whole thing with class.
sure has. Sure. I'd like to have him on here, Vince. We need Steve Bartman. We'll just shoot the bull with him. We won't talk about that. So, Steve Bartman, if you're listening to this, you're welcome anytime on here. We'll have two cards, one Cardinal and one beer. Also, I would like to one last thing about me just kind of greeting everybody is our contest. We're going to be in our second week. We've had a lot of good guesses, but nobody guessed correctly. So the second week, I'm going to give out my second clue. So you had some guesses too sent your way for the contest?
Yeah, I had a lot of people who are guessing BB Richards.
They thought you threw them all. See, I see what you did there. But so here's the second clue. And the first clue, I'll put them both together. It's a Cardinal player that played between 1970 and 2022, a player of note. It's a hitter. And your second clue is it's an outfielder. So an outfielding hitter between the years 1970 and 2022. And that's your clue. And good luck to everybody. And remember, you're playing for a 2014 Michael Walker bobblehead. So that's my piece on the Cardinals there.
Do you know what BB Richards' first name really was?
No, I do not.
Lee.
Lee. All right. Lee Richards. That's pretty good.
He went from
a rock and roll guy, Lee Richards. He had one hit, I think.
He went from having 3 letters and 1 syllable to having 2 letters and 2 syllables. Somehow that's got to be like some kind of a Greek record thing. So, in Cub news, we are going to start with the 5th starter competition. I will say this. Adrian Sampson, who is still in third, a distant third, we have seen his ERA drop from 20 to 14 to this week. It is 9.95.
Whoa.
So he's going in the right direction. Adrian Sampson is going to start the year probably in Iowa, figure things out. He has pitched 12 2/3 innings this spring, giving up 15 hits, 15 runs, 14 of them earned, 8 home runs, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. A little bit better than what I could do, but not much. This is what I'm going to say. Javier Assad is still in second, and he's not getting this 5th starter. All the indications are it's going to Wisniewski. After his 2 appearances in the World Baseball Classic plus his spring training, he's pitched 9 2/3 innings, has given up 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. He's pitched his way onto this team. Long reliever, swing guy, something. The way he has pitched, I don't know how we can't put him on this team. I know there's going to be the sentiment, well, send him to Iowa so he can get his regular starts. He's got major league stuff, and he's harnessed it. I just don't see how you can tell a guy, okay, you're proving you're major league caliber. You had a pitch good last year in your starts. You had like a 3 ERA. You've been even more impressive in spring training. You went to the World Baseball Classic. You have pitched great against great teams. I want to see him go north. And our 5th starter is going to be Hayden Wisniewski, who did not have the best outing, but he's still he's got a 3 ERA. He has pitched 12 spring innings, given up 9 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them earned. He's given up 1 home run, 4 walks, and 17 strikeouts. So next week, we will record this on Wednesday, but when you hear it on Thursday, baseball games, the Major League season will have started. There will be games rolling. So I'm not going to say, hey, Hayden Wisniewski, I'm already pronouncing it. He is the 5th starter. I just want Assad to make the team. Good news in Cub camp. Seiya Suzuki has been cleared for batting practice. He's been doing some light baseball drills. And is he going to be ready for opening day? There's an outside shot, but probably not. They're probably going to play it safe. But it is looking good that he's cleared to take batting practice. He's been hitting off the tee, doing his baseball drills, stuff like that. So it looks like we're going to get just about a full season out of him, unless he gets injured again. Uh, uh, Kyle Hendricks has thrown 3 bullpen sessions. That's good. And his assessment is he's about a month behind everybody right now. So you extrapolate that. He's looking the 3rd, 4th week of April to be ready to pitch in the major leagues, which is going to throw. It's going to be what? We got so many arms. It's awesome. And also Cody Hewer, who we picked up in the trade with the White Sox when we got Madrigal and got rid of Craig Kimbrell.
Oh,
Hewer has closer stuff, and he pitched really good for the White Sox, and he's had flashes with the Cubs, but he had the Tommy John surgery last year. It's looking like he's going to be back mid-June or early July. And if his stuff is back to where it would be, he's going to be a positive addition to the bullpen. You will notice that JJ has redone his whole house in a week's time. It's just beautiful. So JJ, why don't you bring Tony in and let's talk to the guy who's created this beautiful space in his house.
Tony, come on in. I tell you what, we wanted to do some remotes, and the first person I thought of was Tony Pruneau. He's coming in right now. We're at his, I tell you what, I'm almost talking in hushed tones. A lot of people talk about man caves. Well, this is a shrine, a baseball shrine. And after we talk to Tony here for a little bit, I've known him for about 30 years. We'll take a little tour around and we'll ask him questions about some of the things he has. But this is my good friend Tony Pruneau, and we're at parts unknown because we don't want, this exactly known, because there'll be mass hysteria. People be here trying to get some baseball cards and everything. So Vince, this is my good friend Tony, and this is Vince Hopper.
Hello, Tony. So you guys have been friends for 30 years? Yes, since you were like in kindergarten. That's awesome.
Yes.
There's the most obvious joke I've got. So
we're sitting at his bar right now. I'm going to show you this later, but right underneath the glass is Baseball Digest. There must be 75 Baseball Digest. Yes,
we grew up on it.
Yeah, the little ones when they were like TV guide size. Oh yeah, I'm seeing Harold Baines and McGuire and Glavine and Chipper Jones and Smoltz and Brett. It's fantastic. So, we always start off the questioning with Tony. How did you first become a baseball fan? About what age, and what brought you to the great game of baseball?
Probably when I was about 10 years old. I think we all three can attest that when we were growing up, there was KMOX, there's Buck and Shannon. We had a Monday night game of the week, which was like Howard Cosell, Kurt Gowdy, Keith Jackson.
Yeah, the great
had Don Drysdale doing play-by-play, our color. And I've heard Vince bring this up before. There's always a game of the week, and that was Kubek and Garagiola.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, in my house, that's what you were going to watch. So you might as well take to it.
Oh yeah, those were good times. And then the St. Louis, you'd had Ron Jacober, I think it was on Channel 5. Maybe you get a Sunday game in there and stuff like that.
Randolph.
Yeah. Well, so growing up, your dad was a Cardinal fan, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you guys would take this. I want to tell you, there's a story. Tony probably won't tell the story, but when he was like 5 or 6 years old, his dad was what, Elks Club or
No, it was just a card party.
Yeah, they'd go there and he would bring out these old cards, and Tony would be like 5 years old going, Billy Williams. And he'd say, "What's his lifetime batting average, Tony?" 283. He could name all those things. And I was like, man, Tony, that's pretty darn cool. That's so he did parlor tricks for all the guys
I
there.
remember quite into the evening when everybody's feeling pretty good. Come out here and do Joe Morgan, the pump, or do Willie Stargell, with the
windmill. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh yeah.
Could you do Johnny Walking Fuss?
As American League, we never got him.
True. Yeah, Johnny Walking Fuss. Yeah.
Oh, there was that his thing. I didn't know that. All right. Well, we always ask too, like, do you have a favorite era? I know you grew up in the 70s, like as a small kid, and then of course you got the 80s, but was there an era you like the best?
Kind of two eras. Growing up, it was Ted Simmons.
I agree.
I don't know. That's when they basically played on the Busch Stadium concrete or AstroTurf. And, it'd get up to 120 degrees on that stuff. And, that guy would still come out and bat 300 with lead the league in doubles. And he was just a warrior. But, my youngest son, he kind of came up in the 2000s. And we both kind of gravitated to Chris Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
He was, if there was ever a throwback, it was him. He just man, he was a competitor.
As Cardinal fans, are very blessed because we've had some really great players come through that were on other teams, and somehow they fell in our lap. Like Carpenter, I think it was an injury or something, and then
came from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it came from the Blue Jays, and of course Goldie and Arenado, and I always bring up Lou Brock. It's always a sore spot, but we were so blessed to get Lou Brock. I can't believe it, And
Ernie Brogliola wasn't a bad pitcher at that time.
No,
people actually thought the Cubs got the better of the deal.
At the time, we did. It looked like Brock was not hitting his potential, and we had an opportunity to get an anchor for the staff when we were just starting to look like we were putting something together, which we did in the late 60s. So he was going to be one of those pieces that was going to push us forward. And then you were going to get stuck with Lou Brock.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. For us.
Very good. Very nice of the Cubs to do that for us. Go ahead, Vince.
So growing up, do you remember the first baseball game you went to a Busch?
You'll get a kick out of this. So my favorite player was Ted Simmons. My dad's work buddy, his daughter was about my same age. Her favorite player was Al Roboski, and Madden Gary. So, if you knew my dad, you'd know it's about the seventh inning. We're down by 3. Boy, we better try to beat that traffic.
Yeah. That's me, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we're beating the traffic and we're down 55, and Simmons comes up, hits a grand slam, and Proboski comes in to close it. You want to talk about 2 aggravated kids in the back seat. Man.
When I first met Tony, he was a new dad, and I went to nursing school with his wife, and she said, "Oh, JJ, my husband collects cards." Well, when you hear that, sometimes you go over and they've got like 30 cards and a rubber band, and that's about it. But Tony had like those military cases with
the old gun boxes.
Yeah, the old gun boxes, and he brought out like Satchel Paige, Whitey Ford, and I was like, "Oh my God!" He had a couple of those with all these classic cards. And since then, he's moved to this undisclosed area, and he's taken this basement and taken it to another level. I'm telling you what, Vince, you got to come over here sometime and see a game. It's just something. So what gave you the idea? I'm going to start having this like baseball room.
I hadn't started when I was like 11 or 12. And pretty soon 40 years passed.
It sure does.
And it's like, what am I going to do? And I was like, if I build a room, I can look at it all the time. I don't have to pull it out of closet. So
yeah, it's hard to display things. That's the thing. And I think when we go on this little tour here in a little bit, when you see how he displayed it, it's given me a lot of ideas how to do some of my things. But Tony just doesn't have this room. He's got an office, and he builds these frames where he puts cards in there, and he's got a thing in his office where it's players he thinks should be in the Hall of Fame. And just recently, you had to take your Jim Cott and your Ted Simmons out of there.
Yeah, they made it.
Yeah, they finally made. And you got to Bill Madlock in there too.
I got to Bill Madlock.
Bill Madlock.
Al Oliver's a borderline guy.
I agree. Oliver.
San Diego Chicken is not in there.
Yeah, well, I think outside the box. That's what I do.
Well, let me ask you this: do you have Don Mattingly on that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because he's got all this controversy because he only had like 6 peak years, and then he had the back issues. But then people bring up, well, what's the difference? Koufax had 6 peak years, and those were at the end. So it's kind of switched my mind on Mattingly. At one time, I thought, nah, he didn't play long enough. But when I look at his dominance for those 6 years, yeah, if we can put Koufax in, he certainly deserves to be in.
I think a lot of times the criteria of dominating your era doesn't get enough play. And,
he gets
Freehand and Lolich. I mean, they pretty much took care of the 60s. It's just, I guess that's what makes it so cool, because there's so many different takes on it.
Yeah, and I like that you have Madlock because 4 batting titles is nothing to sneeze at. And he wasn't a good fielder. He didn't hit for much power. But his true value as a player, as a commodity, was proven when he went to Pittsburgh and led them down the stretch, and they won the World Series. And he's a completely overlooked person. In the prime of his career, to be traded to the Giants, and at that time where you were practically playing in the tundra at night, and to scratch out a few 300 seasons, tip my hat to the guy. He could just plain hit.
Yeah, Mad Dog.
And you're right. He was the missing piece of the lumber company. Once he got there was no stopping them. He was that last piece in the puzzle.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, we all three remember the dominance that Dave Parker had back then.
Oh yeah.
So he's in there.
He's in there. Madlock's technically a Cub. You got any other Cubs on there in that thing? Because Madlock, if he went in, I don't know what hat he'd go underneath, but I didn't know if you had any more.
I'll say this: when they put Santo in, I got really upset that they didn't put Kenny Boyer in, but not to try to pile on, man.
I do. I'm with you. I think Santo, he deserves it, but so does Kenny Boyer. Yeah, he's the only guy on that left field wall that's not in the Hall of Fame that they retired his number.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's the well, unless Augie Bush too. Yeah, Augie Bush. He didn't get the Hall of Fame.
So when you decided to build this beautiful facility in your basement, what was your wife's response to that? I mean, when I've done building projects in the basement, as you can see, it's not quite as extravagant. My wife just kind of shakes her head and lets me go. So,
my wife, she's always been so supportive of this stuff. She knows how much it means to me. And she understood that once it got done, she was going to lose me. And pretty much after 7 o'clock every day, she loses me. So
I tell you what, too, it's like the Smithsonian. I may not see Tony for 2 or 3 months. When I come back, things have changed. He's got new exhibits up, new things have changed. There's a little this, a little Tony, where'd this come from? And so he's always tweaking and moving things around and putting new things out, taking things away. And I work with some veterans whose grandsons or sons played with your son on travel ball, and they'll say, "Have you seen Tony Pruneau's baseball room?" I said, "Oh yeah, I've been over there a few times." "Oh man, that's the coolest thing ever." So it's known around the area.
Now, the coolest man cave that I've been to is Ron Jacober's basement about 20 years ago.
No,
And
wow.
there was stuff that just blew me away. Um, and then randomly he had like a picture of Uncle Leonard for people our age. Remember Uncle Leonard, you know? Um, just really cool. But I can already tell you have a lot more depth in your space than Ron Jacober did. It I'm dying to see this. Can we do the tour now?
Of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it. You know, I'm not very tech savvy. I'm going to start at the door like you're coming into the room, and I'm going to go in the middle and just kind of scan around, and then we'll start on the right side and kind of go around and just stop and talk to Tony about certain items and point out a few things. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let me disconnect that. All right. I'm going to try to get this off of here if I can. They showed me it was easy. There we go. All right. I'm going to walk outside here. Let me get this. All right. All right, Vince. This is like you're coming into the basement now. And we're going into this shrine right here.
All right,
So
back up real quick. Back up real quick.
Okay, back up.
Keep backing.
More?
Keep backing down this little hallway. Ah, 10 signs. I have a lot of those. I have the Ted Williams with the Moxie.
Right here. Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, he's got these all over the place. He's found some
Yes.
Bob Feller there and Lou Gehrig. There's a Ted Williams cream root beer. Look at all that.
Oh man.
Ain't that great? Now, here's the bar. Well, hang on. I'm going to go to the middle of the room and kind of do a roundabout. I'm trying to keep this nice and steady. But basically, Vince, this is the bar. And people of our era, you remember those drinking glasses there at the top of the bar?
Yes.
Yes. Those are classics. He's got one for all the different brews and things like that. We'll go over that here in a little bit. And I'll just kind of scan. He's got a Chris Carpenter autograph right over there. But as we come through, he's made these frames. We'll kind of go over that in a minute. And then as we're moving around the room, I'm trying to go slow. You can kind of guide me, Vince, if I'm going too slow or too fast.
Oh, you're doing great.
I'm standing on a Cardinal carpet with the birds on the bat right here. Of course, he's got the MLB channel on.
As he should.
Yeah, that's right. Just like we should. And then here's more tins. And we'll get into that in a minute. And he's got a program from every World Series the Cardinals have won. So that's pretty cool. And so anyway, we're going to make our way over here to the bar, and I will show you. I got my notes and everything, but I will show you he's got all the baseball digests underneath the bar there.
Oh.
Yes. Look at that. There's a Stan holding a wine bottle right there. Is that great? I mean,
I have that ball game concessions tin too.
So you have that as well? Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to get through here. I'm too fat, Vince. I'm too fat. All right, here we are. Oh, yeah. Oh, here's some more of these tins.
Yeah.
Hornets Wagner, 5-cent cigars. Look at that. Yeah. Ducky Medwick for pipe tobacco. The Georgia Peach right there. Shoeless Joe. Oh, these are just classics. These are just classics, man. So, of course, there's all the drinking glasses and everything with Falstaff and Old Style and Coors. Just everything. Just right there. I just love that touch. And then as we make our way around, there's some more tins. And then he has pictures, like famous pictures. Like here's a picture of Babe Ruth. He's got a Cardinal program over there. It's a 10, but it's a 10-cent program. I couldn't tell you what year that is. It looks like is that Wayno over there celebrating? Yeah. Is that Wayno? Okay. A clock with all the Cardinal jerseys over the years. And now Tony, when we get right here, you want to tell them the significance of this big frame right here?
So, as a kid, when I was opening up my cards, I'd always look for a leader's card. And leaders first came out in 1960, which I probably started right around this time, around 75. But I love these damn things, and I couldn't get enough of them. And after 30 years, I got everything from 1960 to 81. And
Wow.
it took a lot of time.
Those are hard cards to find
Yeah.
because a lot of people pitch them, and there ain't as many as the other cards. I think, it doesn't mean as much to some
Probably
folks.
get like 5 or 6 a year, and you're lucky they do the American League and the National League. A lot of times they just do, baseball, AL, and NL.
Here's 64 pitching leaders. Which
we
Which
got
Cub?
Fergie in here.
There's Fergie, 67, and what's that? Wins.
Yeah, it's pitching leader. Yep.
Yeah, and who's L. Jackson of the Cubs? He was one of the pitching leaders in
Larry.
64. Larry Jackson. Okay. Laren.
I
Okay.
believe. Am I right there?
Yes.
And yeah, so this was like my first big project I completed. And like I said, it probably took me every bit of 30 years to get it done.
That's pretty darn cool, Tony. I love it. Just going through there and seeing those players, and sometimes they only pop up once. And then sometimes it's year after year, like Brock with the stolen bases. He's on there almost every year there for about, like 8 years? Yeah. Look right there, earn run leaders. There's old Randy Jones. Man, I remember that. He had 2 good years, 2 really, really good years. Oh, yeah.
Now,
So more. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did you build that frame yourself?
Yes, sir.
As someone who dabbles in woodworking, I appreciate how difficult it is to make a frame that big. So
Yeah, difficult part was these are all in plastic slides. I got the plexiglass on front, but man, it's awful big, and some of them they just shifted on me, and it bothers me to this day.
And I got some more William Bendix. There's a William Bendix, Tony. I never knew that was William Bendix there. Yeah. And of course, there at the bottom, you got Willie, Hank, Ted, and Babe, Dizzy Dean there. Then we get to this middle part, and he's got like buttons from all over the place. And then the teams like the Seattle Pilots, the Browns, and the Senators. Some of those are hard to find, Tony, those pennants.
Well, this is an original. That's an original, but that's a reprint.
Oh, that's okay. That's a reprint.
Yeah, that's out of Daddy's pay grade.
I'm telling you, Vince, some of these items can run pretty high. It's hard to find. And Tony's got a knack for wheeling and dealing. I will say that. You're a good wheeler dealer. That day to remember, that's Mickey's final game, isn't it?
I believe so.
That's a hard one to find right there. What's that, Sunday?
Today,
Yeah.
1969.
1969. How about that? Well, now we're getting to the big dog. This is stuff here that's just, I don't have anything like this. Tony, you want to go over the significance of these frames?
These are 33, 34 Goudies, some DeLongs. Everybody in here is a Hall of Famer. And quite a few of them are rookie cards.
Man.
Not all of them, but it's just during COVID, I really started applying myself to this because, it was just a different time. But, the reason I went with the old guys, and by the way, while I'm even thinking about it, I wanted to give you guys a plug. There's a book called The Glory of Their Time. It's by Lawrence Ritter. I promise anybody that's watching this, you'll love it. But getting back to these are just guys. This was probably the most, before the tobacco cards, these were the most popular gum cards. And little by little, man, I just kind of stuck with a plan, and before I knew it, I had this one filled up.
Oh man, look at that. There's a
Wow.
Satchel Paige
Yeah,
right there.
that's the last one I added at Lefty Grove.
Lefty Grove. Is this the one where you got the Cub area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Gabby Hartnett, Billy Herman, and Hack Wilson.
Right there.
Some of your boys.
Oh yeah.
Also got Kiki Kyler over here. He's a Cubby.
Stolen base man right there.
No, I don't believe Rabbit. I believe he was with the Braves.
How about that? So I'm just kind of giving you a big view of it there. And then here's more current players and their rookie cards.
Yeah, these are more popular, more tops.
This is about when I come in.
Right.
You know.
This is me and JJ's time.
Yeah, right here. There's a Ted Simmons. Was it 70? Yeah, with the Thurman Munson rookie.
Right.
And there you go. There's Bruce Sutter rookie right there with the Cubs.
See,
There you go.
I made the Hall of Fame list because I'm just not taking them out.
We love Thurman. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that Reggie Jackson. Look how babyface Reggie and Johnny Bench, man. That don't even look like Johnny right there. I love that. And of course, no complete collection is complete without the bobbleheads. Look at that. My goodness. There they are. Oh, everybody in there. Yeah. Tony doesn't collect the ones where Arenado's riding a shark or Whitey's fishing. He only does the action cards. We even got Eddie Goodell.
Get that for Vince.
Oh, that game. Vince has that, don't he?
Yeah.
I have that game. That's awesome.
There he is. And Brock, that's the Brock pop I told you about when Lou Brock had a soda
yeah.
pop. Right there.
That's my old man's high school spike.
I'll be darned. What position did he play?
He was a catcher, I believe.
I'll be darned. I'll be darned. And that bat?
Well, there's a story with that. I'm gonna try to hold it together. So the Cardinals won the series in 06. That Christmas, my brother gave all three of his brothers this bat. The following Christmas, another brother gave all three of his brothers this case to display the bat. But that was the last present I got from my little brother. He passed away in a motorcycle wreck in September of that year. So that's one of the untouchables.
You know, that's the great thing about these collections. Every piece seems to have a story and a sentimental value. I mean, we're sort of like hoarders with baseball stuff. I'm the same way. And look at this, Vince, in the background. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a swinging A's seat cushion. It's inflatable. Look at that.
Ah,
With the 3 world championships they had back there in the 70s.
You want to tell me where that came from?
Well, when I was a kid, I went out there and got 2 of them, and I met Tony, and I knew that it looked good in his room, so I donated it. Oh, you got the Ed Wheatley book on the St. Louis Browns.
Yeah.
There you go.
nice.
We reached out to Ed, and of course he's got the Browns. And Tony, I got to ask you the story of this card right here, because that's incredible. What year is that, by the way?
Well, let me start with this bat.
Okay.
The bat's from the Streetcar Series in '44. And my great-grandfather, which is that guy, went to the game, and he picked that up for his first grandson, which is my dad.
I'll be darned.
And my dad was so afraid that we'd take it outside and hit rocks with it. And it pretty much stayed up in his closet for 40 years. I just finally found it when he passed away. But getting back to this card, 2 months ago, about 3 months ago, I got a letter from my aunt. And it was a real nice little letter, and it explained this card. Come to find out, my grandfather, which is this guy.
All right.
He basically He was probably, this is a 1913 T200 Fatima Cigarettes card. So he got this when he was a kid, 4 or 5-year-old kid. He thought enough of the person that gave it to him that he kept it through 2 world wars, Great Depression, and when we were going through his stuff after he'd passed away, it was still in his personal box.
I'll be darned.
So,
Man, over
you
100
know, I
years
got
old.
a lot of things that are more expensive than this, but you can guarantee that's going to be the last thing that's ever going to leave this house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, well, thank you for sharing that story, man.
Oh, man.
I don't have anything
Glad I got through it.
like that. This Loop rock pillow, they only made a few of those. I happen to have one, and you have one, but there's not many, and they're hard to find in good shape. But that's when he broke the all-time record right there. That's very cool. I didn't even know that existed. And Vince, I'll just sort of take you back a little bit here with some more of these tins. And if you notice, he's got the championship, the Cardinal championship programs there. There's the 26 Yankee and Cardinals, 31 versus the A's, that 34 in the Gas House Gang. Oh my God, Tigers and Cardinals, 40, all the way up 67. There's so much to see. And then at the top, he's got those defunct teams too, with little pennants and buttons. There's the New York Giants, Expos. And I've never seen the Kansas City Athletic pennant or anything from them except for cards. The Colt 45s and the Milwaukee Braves in 58. I mean, this and Brooklyn Dodgers. Look at that Brooklyn Dodgers one down there. Man. And I love this one right here, the 1946 one. Let's see. I see Slaughter and
nice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And is that
Marion and Karowski?
Marion and Karowski. I love that picture. And just on and on. I mean, I come in here and there's always something new to see. And that's kind of a quick tour, Vince, but it's just it's a pleasure. And all these old time players up there too. I see Clemente right there and Dean right there. Oh yeah. Now you got an air vent up there that's kind of gives you a problem. He's got to work around things in here. he really does. Oh, I love this one with the Cardinals at their lockers. That's a classic photo right there. Oh yeah, I love that one. Yeah, we're starting to lose those guys. That's Red Chain Inks and that starting lineup right there. Very good. Well, I'm going to make my way back over to the bar. Vince, any questions?
No, I'm overwhelmed.
We started out on a high note with this. I'm telling you, I don't know if anybody, this is going to scare other people off.
Oh, this is so cool.
Oh, there we go. Let me kind of get that set back up.
We need to have a slumber party there.
Yes. Maybe there'll be a Cardinal Cub double hitter. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's kind of hard to find double headers nowadays. Day and night whenever there's a rain out or something. So, well, Tony, that's really cool. That's awesome. That's a testimony to your passion. A lot of decades of collecting and work, and then you have the task of deciding what you display and what you're not going to display, and then you have to decide how you're going to display. Yeah, it's also a testimony to your meticulous nature. I can tell you're not a slop at all.
Well, thank you.
I've never come in here when it didn't look immaculate. I'll be honest. I've probably been over here 25 times. And every time I come in here, I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And there's always a new, I see that Bob Gibson pitching rubber right there.
Mm-hmm.
Very great. I mean, just on and on. Yeah. One day, maybe I'll have something this cool as this.
Don't let JJ fool you. He's got a ton of stuff.
Well, JJ, do you want to do your spotlight or do you want me to do mine? Let me say to begin with, we had advertised, and this is either age, COVID fog, or something. Jeremy sent a message saying, why don't you do a segment on Cardinals who've been in TV and movies? And I thought it was a great idea. And the reason I must have thought it was a great idea is because we did that on January 5th. As I started looking into it, I thought, wait a minute, this seems like deja vu. Then I went back and, oh, we've already done this.
We've
So,
already done it. Well,
so
there's
Jeremy,
26 shows.
Jeremy, go back to the 5th of January episode, and you can see our episode on Cardinals and Cubs who've been in TVs and movies. So what we're going to do is JJ is going to highlight Willie McGee, and I'm going to talk about a sore spot, Larry Himes, that I alluded to a few weeks ago. So I thought I might as well ride that horse so I don't have to ride it again. You want to go first, or?
I'll go first. Mine's going to be positive. I picked Willie McGee. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's one of the all-time favorite Cardinals. Everybody loved Willie. Kids, the older folks, the novice fans. He was just a hardworking guy who was humble and played his butt off. Willie didn't start playing baseball until later in life. I read a lot about his childhood. He grew up in San Francisco and Oakland area, and he grew up in a Pentecostal family. His dad worked 2 jobs, and they just, they were just, middle-class struggling folks just trying to make it. But Willie started playing ball in high school, and he was so fast and athletic and just loved it. And he actually got drafted out of high school by the Chicago White Sox, and they were going to give him a $12,000 bonus. But he thought, no, I don't think I'm ready. And to be honest with you, I understand. You're an 18-year-old kid, and you're kind of shy, and you're attached to your family. It'd be hard just to pack up and go away with all these people you don't even know. So he decided to go to college, and he went to a community college, and he led his team to the Community College Championship of California. And then the Yankees drafted him, and I believe it was I got to go back. I'm on my other notes right now. He actually got drafted by the Yankees, but they drafted him in the first round, but they only offered him $7,500, and the White Sox offered him $12,000. So he took it, and he went out and started playing in the minor leagues, and he had some ups and downs in the minor leagues. And at one time he was in Double-A, and he struggled a little bit, and they sent him down to A-ball, and they called home, and he had a girlfriend at home, and it was a long distance relationship. He didn't think he was cut out. And he wanted to go back home, and his dad said, no, there's nothing for you here. You go be a ball player. So he went ahead, and he was going to be a ball player. And the Yankees minor leagues were stacked. And you remember this was 77 and 78. Well, he got drafted in 77 by the Yankees. Well, they had just went to 2 World Series in 81. They go back to the World Series, and they were stacked. He got up in Triple-A, but the Yankees had Reggie Jackson, Bobby Brown, not my prerogative, Bobby Brown. They had another guy. You remember Bobby Brown. So they had Bobby Brown, Reggie Jackson. They had Oscar Gamble, and they had Jerry Mumphrey, an old Cardinal player, and they had Dave Winfield. Yeah. So their outfield was stacked. Then in the minors, he played with Pat Tabler and Steve Barboni. So it was like, man, they're just stacked with all these outfielders. And coming up to where he was Mattingly, who we mentioned earlier tonight, and Otis Nixon, who I didn't even know was in the Yankees minor leagues. So of course the Yankees are on a pennant drive, and they need a left-handed bullpen guy. They saw Bob Sykes, and we had a scout named Hal Smith, and he goes, ask for McGee. Well, they thought he was expendable because they had so many outfielders. They said, sure, we'll trade you McGee for Sykes. And the rest is history. Bob Sykes never pitched for the Yankees. He had a sore shoulder and never pitched in the Bronx. Willie comes up. He comes to the 1982 spring training and does pretty good, but he got injured. He had some bruised ribs on a pickoff play at first. So he goes down to Louisville, spends some time down there. And the Cardinals at the time had Lonnie Smith and George Hendrick. And we had David Green, who we picked up from the Brewers, who we thought was going to be this big athlete. And Green gets hurt. So Willie had only had 32 at bats in the minors and was lighting it up. They brought him up, and he was just basically a pinch hitter. And then we were playing a game in San Francisco, and Whitey said he let George Hendrick take the day off, put Willie in the lineup, and then in that game he had a triple with bases loaded, and he really never looked back. Willie was on fire after that. The Yankees tried to trade back for Willie, but the Cardinals wouldn't do it. That's something. But trading is a crapshoot anyway. Sometimes these minor leaguers, you hear about them and they never really make it, and sometimes somebody out of the blue becomes a big star. And Willie McGee was kind of that guy. And Don Mattingly said, I was surprised they traded him because he was the best player in the minors for the Yankees at the time. But anyway, he comes up here, and let me get back to my notes over here. Let's see. Oh, here we are. So Willie goes on, and he has a great season that year, and he was so shy. And players like Forsh and Hendrick and Dave Ricketts and Ozzie kind of took him underneath their wing. And actually, Willie McGee lived with Ozzie that first year he was up in the big leagues. And they said it took him 2 months before he stopped calling Ozzie's wife Mrs. Smith. He was so respectful. And I think that's why the fans love him. He just played his butt off, and he gave you everything he had. And he had so many quirks. He'd take his hat off and mop his brow. He'd swing at balls in the bill of his cap or down by his shoelaces, and he'd get hits because he was so fast. And of course, Whitey liked him because he had that running game he had in the 80s. But that year, 1982, as all Cardinals fans know, we win 92 games that year. We face the Braves in the playoffs, and we go to the World Series. And that rookie year, Willie hit 296. He hit 4 home runs. He wasn't known for being a home run hitter, and he had 24 stolen bases in that short amount of time. But here's what happened in the World Series, Game 3. Vince, we've talked about this before. It's one of those moments. You were playing football, and I was playing football, and everybody was talking about this game. What's going on? Who's winning? Willie hits 2 home runs, but the picture I'd like to have in my baseball room is the one where he's jumping and stealing a home run from Gorman Thomas.
Yeah.
It was a great series. It could have went either way. And the Brewers were known as Harvey's Wallbangers. That whole team could hit home runs. And the Cardinals, we had George Hendrick, and that was about it. Everybody else would run really quick. So it was speed versus power. Both pitching staffs were good. But here may have been one of the keys. We had Bruce Sutter. They had Raleigh Fingers, but he was hurt. If Raleigh Fingers wasn't hurt, might have went the other way. But that's baseball for you. And the Cardinals win in 82, and we hadn't won since 67. And it was the first time I ever seen the Cardinals have a world championship. And Willie was a big part of that. Willie's career, I'm just going to go briefly over some of his awards here. He had 3 Golden Gloves. Very good player with a good arm. He was a 4-time All-Star. He was in that 82 World Series and also the 85 and 87 World Series we lost. 85, Don Dinkinger of the Royals. And he said, I'll never let that go, Vince.
Over it.
I'll never get over it. No, that's baseball. And 87, the Twins. And Twins, that was a great series too. But Willie played in both of those. He was an MVP in 1985, which was great. Won a Silver Slugger, and he won 2 batting titles. He was a Cardinal from 82 to 90. And in 90, Whitey was gone. And it was Augie had passed away. It just didn't seem like the kids cared as much about the team. And the Cardinals sent him to Oakland because they were going to the World Series that year for maybe another shot at a championship. So Willie was gone, big part of our history. He goes on to play for Oakland in 90 and then signs with the Giants as a free agent 91 through 94, spends 1 year with the Red Sox and comes back home. And he came back home and he played for the Cardinals from 96 to 99. Now, he wasn't the same Willie McGee then. He was the 4th outfielder, pinch hitter, deluxe. And he was a switch hitter. And he still was above average speed, probably. Wasn't as fast as he once was. But here's some of the stats he had for us. He played in 1,661 games, had over 5,500 at-bats, scored 960 runs, 1,683 hits with the Cardinals. That's all. This is all with the Cardinals. 255 doubles. He did hit 63 home runs, and you just don't think of Willie as a home run hitter. lifetime 294 at batting average, and he stole 352 bases, 301 as a Cardinal. I have some top 10 lists here as far as Cardinal history, and this is just where he is one of the all-time great Cardinals. If you're in the top 10 of any list in Cub, Red, Pirate, Cardinal history, you've done something, because our teams have been around forever. But with games played, he's 10th all time with 1,661, and Stan, of course, over 3,000 is the most in Cardinal history. Triples, he's 7th with 83, but Stan played 24 years with the Cardinals with 177. Stolen bases, he's 6th with 301, but of course we have Lou Brock at 888 with the Cardinals. Singles, just a base hit, he is 9th with 1,282, but of course Stan leads in that. And then stolen base percentage, he's 8th with 75.63. But like Max said the other day when we had trivia, Tommy Edman is the most successful. It's a smaller sample size, but he's got the best percentage in stolen bases with 85.87. So Willie McGee, we just love him. When we traded him to Oakland, I don't know if you remember the name Felix Jose.
Yeah.
We got Felix Jose. Yeah, we thought he was going to be. He was
decent.
He was decent, and we had two minor leaguers. Stan Royer came up for like a cup of coffee here and there, and the other guy was a guy named Darryl Green that never made it up to the pros. In 1995, this is kind of how the last thing I kind of remember as his playing days. There was in 95, Ozzie retires in 1996. Him and Ozzie make these commercials called Baseball Like It Ought to Be, where they played old timers. And they had different names, and they'd say, I remember in my day, and they would talk about their day in baseball. And they all had like little gray beards and little gray afros and stuff. And it was so cute. And Willie is a very shy guy. This is not like him at all to do that. But I think he loves Ozzie and Vince Coleman and those guys so much. He did those commercials, and they're so cute and funny. If you ever get on YouTube, take a chance and watch those. And now he's been an outfielder coach with us since 2018. And I know he's very revered by the other guys. You know, he's not ever drawing attention to himself. But I remember last year when the Yankees and the Cardinals played, Bader came over and gave him a hug, you know, because all the things he did for him and all the work they did together. So that's my player, Willie McGee. I didn't really dig too deep in the past with Willie. Everybody knows him. But I would just like to shine a spotlight on, especially for the little leaguers out there, that take a look at that guy. And if you want to have a good work ethic and get the most out of your ability, Willie McGee's your guy. So anyway, that's my player in the spotlight.
Well, I'm going to spotlight former general manager for the Cubs, Larry Himes. Someone brought up a few weeks ago something that just triggered my Larry Himes button. And let me go through the pre-Cubs Larry Himes. In 1986, he is hired as the general manager of the White Sox. He comes in, he's an authoritarian. And this is a little bit past the era where an authoritarian works in a baseball coach. For instance, you could not go into the clubhouse unless you had socks on. So if you were just wearing sandals, you had to have socks on your sandals. You could not go in your bare feet. You had to at least have socks on. Why that was a hill he wanted to die on, I don't know. He also had no beer in the clubhouse, which at this time, every other team had beer in the clubhouse. And I remember Hall of Famer Carlton Fisk just like, come on, man, it's baseball. After the game, we don't want a Sprite, we want a beer. So he wasn't tremendously liked by the players of the White Sox, but he did have his positives. He built their farm system. He drafted and helped develop their minor league system, helped develop Blackjack McDowell, who went on to win a Cy Young, was a very good pitcher in the 90s. Robin Ventura who was a really good hitter aside from being Nolan Ryan's punching bag. But he was an all-star player. Frank Thomas, need I say any more? The Big Hurt, the Hall of Famer. And Alex Fernandez, who was a very, very, very good pitcher. When he got to the White Sox, he also traded fan favorite Harold Baines, Hall of Famer, who I don't think should be a Hall of Famer, but he traded him to the Rangers for Scott Fletcher, Wilson Alvarez, and this skinny Dominican named Sammy Sosa. And you would think with that kind of minor league development that they had, bringing having all this talent in the minor league, he would be flying high. But no, in 1990, the Sox fired him. And in 1990, the White Sox were actually in the race until the last week when Oakland finally won it. After that successful season, they fired Hines. The reason is because, yes, he did some good, but the immediate clubhouse, the major league club, the players did not like him. They hated the whole system, and Jerry Reinsdorf, this was a mistake, getting rid of Hines. So he set out the 91 season. After the 91 season, the Cubs fired Jim Frey as their general manager. Let me back up a few years before that. In 1989, the Cubs won the division with Jim Frey as the general manager. That team had Sandberg, it had Sutcliffe, it had Maddox, it had Dawson, Joe Girardi. It was a very, very good team. And it looked like the beginnings of, hey, we've got some talent here. Some of it's getting older, but we can replace. This looks like a foundation we can build upon. So Cub fans at this time were pretty excited. We made the playoffs in 89. Looks like we've got some better things coming. And the player that we were so excited about was this little skinny pitcher named Greg Maddux. Oh my gosh, he was good. And he was going to be what we were going to build this team around. So in 1990, Jim Frey signed George Bell, former American League MVP, who was also a really good friend of Sandberg's because they grew up in the Phillies organization together. So they thought that would be really good. They also signed Danny Jackson, who had pitched in the World Series for the Royals and the Reds, and was I wouldn't say he was like a number two. He was a really good pitcher. And they brought in closer Dave Smith from Houston. That was a mistake. Dave Smith threw changeups, and he made a living on people flying out in the Astrodome, and he racked up his saves. With the Cubs, those balls were going out of the park. So, but anyway, so we signed George Bell, we signed Danny Jackson, we signed Dave Smith in 90, and we feel like we're going to keep this momentum going. It flopped. We finished under 500, and Frey was fired, and they said, hey, that guy Himes did a really good job building this White Sox team that's now in the playoffs. Why don't we hire him? So Himes was brought in to revamp the team. And the first thing that Himes did, which was good, was he traded an aging George Bell, who had been an all-star last year for the Cubs, had a decent year with the Cubs, traded him for Sosa. So this is the second time Himes has traded for Sosa. Once in Chicago, or once for the White Sox when he got him from the Rangers, and now with the Cubs when he's getting from the White Sox. So that looked like that was probably going to be, we're getting younger. George Bell's getting older. George Bell couldn't field anymore. So now let's get to Maddox. Maddox, in 1988, he got to the Cubs in 86. In 88, he had his breakthrough year. He was 18-8 with a 3.18 ERA, 34 starts, 249 innings, and he was an all-star. 89, the year we went to the playoffs, he was 19-12, 2.95 ERA, 35 starts, 238 in the third innings, and he won he finished third in the Cy Young Award that year. In 1990, Maddox was 15-15, 3.46 ERA, 35 starts, 237 innings, won his first Gold Glove. 91, 15-11, 3.35 ERA, 37 starts, 263 innings, Gold Glove. In 92, with the Cubs, Maddox is 20-11 with a 2.18 ERA, 35 starts, 268 innings. He was an all-star. He won a Gold Glove. He won a Cy Young Award, and he's going into free agency. Okay, this is common. Players, Aaron Judge did this last year. It is common. You tell your GM, I'm going to see what I'm worth on the market. It doesn't mean I'm leaving. I'm going to see what I'm worth on the market, see what's out there. A good GM, okay, we're here waiting for you, okay? So he tests the waters of free agency, and he's talking to the Yankees and he's talking to the Braves, and he got offers from the Yankees and the Braves amongst other teams. During this time, Himes decides he's going to sign a few free agents. He signs Jose Guzman, Dan Plesac, who was a good reliever, Candy Maldonado, who was a decent outfielder, and Randy Myers, who was a really good closer. Maddox comes back and says, this is what the Braves have offered me. I like the Braves. This is what they've offered, but if you will match us, I want to stay in Chicago. Like Cashman last year or this year with Judge said, okay, well,
Yeah.
No. Larry Himes had such an ego. He said, well, I've already spent all my money on Guzman, Plesac, Maldonado, and Myers. So I don't have any money left for me, which was a load of BS. It was his ego saying, oh, you want to go flirt with other teams? Fine, just get out of here. So opening day of 2003, the Cubs are hosting the Braves. The Braves trot out Greg Maddux, who shuts out the Cubs 1-0, and people cheered Maddux. It was kind of wow. In that 93 season, his first season with the Braves, this is what the Cubs could have expected. He was 20-10, 2.36 ERA, 36 starts, 267 innings. He won a Gold Glove and another Cy Young Award, and he just kept going from there. But that wasn't all that Larry Himes did. He also let Sutcliffe go. Sutcliffe had some more productive years with the Orioles. He let Dawson depart. Yes, Dawson was getting older. He did play 4 more years. Dawson wanted to stay in Chicago. He was a fan favorite. Himes didn't see it necessary, so he let him go. In 1994, the Cubs started 0-10. And the Himes had hired Tom Troublehorn to be his manager. And Troublehorn did something that is kind of, looking back, gets more ridiculous every time I think about it. Troublehorn, that fire station in right field from Wrigley? There's a park bench there. He held a town hall meeting on that park bench with fans about what they should do with the team. And it didn't go well. In fact, from reports that came out of it, they just kind of, you guys suck and you suck. So luckily in 94, this underachieving team who had no stomach for their GM or their manager. Luckily, I shouldn't say luckily, but the strike mercifully ended the season for the Cubs at least. And at this time in 94, Sandberg retired, and I've talked about that. I've talked about how I didn't agree with him quitting on the team, even though he was going through a divorce, blah, 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 But anyway, if you read Sandberg's book, Sandberg's written 2 books, this is his second book, he states that one of the factors, it wasn't the factor, but one of the factors in him retiring that first time was he could not stand Larry Himes, nor could anybody else in the clubhouse. They wouldn't perform for him. They didn't like the managers he brought in, and they were just sick of him. So this is a quote that I got from the book. The Himes regime was unlamented, bitter, and nasty. Himes' notoriously high-handed manner and cavalier management style had alienated personnel, particularly Grace, Andre Dawson, and myself, Sandberg. So, you know, you got the 3 stars on the team, you've completely alienated him. And that's why he's so unpopular in Chicago. We were poised to start building there in the early 90s. And just his mere presence, the reason he got fired from the White Sox, just his mere presence of being an authoritarian, it's my way or the highway, I'm smarter than you, I'm management, you're the baseball players, you don't question me. That type of stuff doesn't work. That may have worked in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. For heaven's sakes, this is the 90s now. You've got a generation that doesn't work with. It didn't work with the Cubs. And it retarded our growth as an organization where we did not make it back to the playoffs until 98. That was kind of a fluke with Sammy and Kerry Wood basically carrying a mediocre team into the playoffs. Well, we really didn't get our footing again until the 2000s. And that's why Larry Himes is so reviled in Chicago. Not just one of the organizations, both of the organizations ran him out of town. So the question was asked, why did Maddox leave Chicago or something like that? I think you asked it. Yeah. Larry Himes. That's why Maddox didn't win all those games for the Cubs and take them to the playoffs for 13 straight years. So
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that name or some of them background stories. Thanks, Vince. I had no clue on that kind of stuff there.
So next time I do a spotlight, it will be happy because I do have my information. I think I wrote in like December for doing a Kerry Wood spotlight. I keep putting it off. So,
well, when you did Hines, I wanted to do the most optimistic Cardinal. So I said, I'll do Willie McGee. So we have a yin and yang right there.
There we go. JJ, I got new baseball cards in.
Hey, all right. Well, I'm going with the old. I got one more pack of these 2019s with Judge and Ruth on it. So I'm opening those tonight.
Okay, this is an 88 Dondros.
Ooh, very nice. Freeze
Hey,
Griffey.
You want to go first or?
Oh, no, you go ahead. You mentioned yours first. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have the puzzle piece that goes with this set. And I think it's Stan Musial. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That is I think that's Stan's like inner kidney or something. I don't know what it is. Twins outfielder Randy Bush.
Okay. Yeah. Nice career.
Diamond Kings. I have been in this man's house. Andy Van Slyke, former All-Star.
Close friend of Frank Thomas.
Yeah. Yes. Now, Doug Flutie, Frank Thomas.
Yeah. Oh, he hangs out with all the big timers.
Yeah. And we've mentioned this guy before. Very underrated player, but a very good player. Willie Upshaw for the Blue Jays, first baseman.
Oh, I always liked him.
Lee Guterman for the Mariners, decent relief pitcher. Oh my gosh, we just talk about him and he haunts us in a good way. There's the Hawk, Andre Dawson.
There he is. Look at him. There he is.
He hit, this is after his 49 home run season with the Cubs, MVP season. Awesome. Very good second baseman for the Giants, Robbie Thompson.
And they got him bunting. That's appropriate because he was a very good bunter.
Outfielder for the Pirates, I do remember the name, Mike Diaz.
I don't remember him too much.
Oh, former Expo, David Palmer here pitching with the Braves.
Yeah.
One of the first players, he didn't call it a cutter, but who threw a cutter. Because he had an injury to his hand, he kind of gripped the ball on the side like a football. And so he would get that cutting action on his fastball. And now everybody throws that thing. Former shortstop for the Reds, Kurt Stillwell.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't care what the situation was. It could be a snowstorm. This guy was never lagging. He was always ready to play. Randy Ready.
Always. Ever ready.
Whatever became of this guy? Ozzie Smith.
He's on your clock.
Yes. Oh, outfielder for the Phillies, good fourth outfielder, Glenn Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Like those
Former
uniforms.
Cub. And one guy that I really like to watch play, went on to star on those Astro teams that made the playoffs in the 80s, Billy Hatcher.
Oh yes, big star in the playoffs one year. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tons
8
of
hits in a
hits.
row, something like that.
Something like that. It was unreal. Oh, Hall of Famer Carlton Fisk. Just
Uh,
talked about him. You better have beer after the game if Carlton's
that's
going to be there.
that's right, Hines.
And former catcher for the Rangers, Mike Stanley.
Mike Stanley.
I always
Yeah,
like people with two first names.
there was the Michael Stanley band. Remember them?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
town. They're from Cleveland.
they
You ever go to the
yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I don't think they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, they're not enshrined, but they're in there because they're from Cleveland.
Oh,
If you go there's a part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that has like people like local people like Donnie Iris and the Michael Stanley Band, people like that didn't really make a big nationally, but they were big in the Cleveland music scene, so they got a little area for them. And there's some big people there like the Pretenders because Chrissy Hyde's from that area, Devo's from Akron. Yes.
That's right. Very good, Vince. Very good. Donnie Iris, you could not go a summer without hearing Olia on KC95 all
Oh
the
yeah.
time. I love that. I had that vinyl album of Donnie Iris, right?
Oh wow, cool.
He looked like Buddy Holly with curly hair.
Did. He
Yeah.
did.
All right, getting back to baseball, 2019. Here's the captain. I hope he spends his whole career with the Yankees. But Mike, there he is right there, Aaron Judge. There's the
Aaron
captain.
Judge.
Yes. And then I don't know, just like how Maddox got away from the Cubs and Carlton got away from the Cardinals, for the life of me, I don't know how Freddie Freeman got away from the Braves.
I'll blame it on Larry Himes.
Yeah, you know what? That Larry Himes, it's everything his fault. Oh, a very good power catcher. I don't defensively, I think he was just okay, but he DH'd a lot since the DH came in. But Brian McCann of the Astros.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's had a
You can-
long career on the back of his
Yeah.
card, a lot of years on different
Yeah.
teams and things like that. So a nice long career. Let's see. For the Mets in the bullpen, Seth Lugo.
Oh, Seth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pops really have taken the pictures to a new level. They're very crisp and clear. I really like that. This is, I'm trying to read. Oh, this is Greatness. Topps Greatness Returns. And it's Yaz and Andrew Benintendi, kind of like the different eras of the Red Sox right there. I'm a big Benintendi fan. He was an Arkansas Razorback. Well, first of all, Yaz won the Triple Crown in '67, but Benintendi, very good player. He'd been with the Royals. I know he had been with the Red Sox. I can't tell you who he's with now. Players switch so much now. It'll take me a month to probably get back with what team he's with now. This is the Oakland A's Chris Davis with a K, not Chris Davis of the Orioles with a C. Very good player.
Didn't he hit like 346 for like 3 straight years? He had like the exact same numbers for like a few years in a row.
He hit like for 3 years in a row. He had like 42 home runs or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just put him out there and he'll come up with those exact numbers. What is the chances of that? That is very rare. This is Colorado Rocky Chris Iannetta, the catcher. He's in his catching gear there.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been fond of that's a great shot. I've always been fond of the catchers because that's just such a tough job. Playing, running, hitting, managing the pitching staff, and then just getting foul balls off your thigh and off your mask. That takes a toll on you. This was back when Marcus Semien was with Oakland, but there he is running the bases. He's now with the Texas Rangers. Hopefully they're on an upturn. With the Pittsburgh Pirates, Trevor Williams. You know, looks like the Pirates are kind of swinging back. Oh, a giant, and they went to those 3 World Series, and a big part of it was Brandon Belt.
Yeah. The baby
Sure.
giraffe.
The baby giraffe. And finally, a guy that has so much potential, but just had glimpses of greatness, but just, I don't know, he just kind of faded away. But Carlos Martinez. And he had moments where he looked like he was going to be Pedro Jr. And then he just, I think he's completely out of baseball now, but he looked like he had so much potential and just never really kind of lived up to it, you know? So that's my
it takes so much to be a professional athlete at that level. And I'm not saying this is it with Carlos Martinez, but with some people, the drive, the mental aptitude, the makeup doesn't match the talent. And I think that's what one of the things is frustrating to a lot of baseball fans when you see someone with all this potential and talent, but they just don't have what it takes to be a professional athlete. It's like this, you know. There are people who can do construction. So you think, okay, well, let's put them on a high rise and do construction. Well, they can't do construction on a high rise because they're not just built that way. So there are some people that just don't have the aptitude to match the talent. And yeah, that could have been Carlos, who knows?
And it's hard work too. A lot of these guys came from areas and they were the best player that ever played in that area. And it was just so easy for them. And then all of a sudden they get up to the big leagues and everybody's great. And
yeah, like when I was growing up, I played at Van Prater Park, which has since been renamed the Vincent L. Opera Memorial Baseball Shrine, because I'm just screwing with you.
I was going with you. I was like, hey.
It's still Van Prater Park in East
Oh, okay. All right. I'll know it as Vince Opera Memorial Stadium, though. That's what I'll remember it as.
I had a little league game. Remember, my favorite player was Dave Kingman. I had a little league game where I had 5 at bats. I struck out 3 times and hit 2 home runs.
Hey.
Yeah. I didn't care if I struck out. And now I get so ticked off on players free swing. I'm like, I have some discipline.
Just put the bat on the ball. Yeah.
Well, JJ, next time we talk, it will be like within 16 hours of the baseball season starting. And the next time people see our podcast, we will have baseball. So we are going to be, pardon the pun, back in full swing. I'm very excited. And Tony, are you still around?
Yeah, he's right over here.
Well, thank you for letting us into your home.
Yes, thank you, Tony. Oh, there he is, right there. There he is.
You bet, buddy. Come see me.
I will. When things smooth. we have tax season now, and we do taxes here. So yeah. Otherwise, I'd be there tonight. So, but anyway, thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, this is our first remote, and I'm putting throwing the gauntlet down. If anybody else has a room or some displays, let us know about it. Contact us. We'll come out there. We'll do an interview and look at the stuff. You know, I'd like to see how people show their man caves off, or shrines, as it is in Tony's case.
Well, we do want to thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week.
All right, take care, bud.
Thanks, Vince.